Okay, we're going to begin this webinar today. This is Scott Watson. I am from Alta Vista Technology, and I'd like to welcome the people that are part of this webinar. And today we are going to be doing an introduction for KwikTag. KwikTag is the provider of a service called KwikTab, and it's a core document management system that KwikTag has designed, and the system helps to provide a complete document management and business processing automation solution that can integrate really well with Microsoft Dynamics GP products. This will help to simplify access and visibility to documents in any business process. An example of some of the things you may be able to work with are accounts payable automation and management expense tools. You can also look at tracking for HR and other manual processes. KwikTag helps companies across multiple industries to achieve operational efficiency while saving sufficient time and reducing costs. So today, KwikTag's presenter is Sean Fitzgerald. He's one of our partners that we work with at Alta Vista, and I'd like to introduce Sean and have him conduct this webinar for you.
Great, thanks Scott. Appreciate the introduction. Again, good afternoon, or probably good afternoon to most of you, maybe good morning to a few of you, depending on where you're calling in from. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. As Scott said, my name is Sean Fitzgerald with KwikTag, and I'm going to be leading us here in the next 55 or so minutes. Of course, we'll leave time at the end of this for Q&A. So in case you don't know, you are all on mute right now. So if you speak, we can't hear you, but we'll change that at the end of the session as typical. And as I said, open the lines for Q&A. So jot those down as they come up, and or enter them into the chat text box in the GoToMeeting tool there as you go along, and we'll keep our eye on that as well and take care of those at the end. So if GoToMeeting is working correctly, it hasn't gone to sleep on you yet, you should be looking at my very first slide, and at the top of that it says one system, any department, any process, any document, KwikTag. And if you've been to our website or if you go there, you'll see that same message, and it's not just a cool marketing theme. It truly is what I believe the value of KwikTag. As you're going to see here, as Scott just alluded to, KwikTag is fully integrated into Microsoft Dynamics ERP solutions. We're focusing on GP in this session here today, and so we can help you with that to increase your business process, bring more efficiency to those processes. And the very first thing people come to us for most often is AP automation, so invoices and payables and things like that. But back to this one system message, KwikTag is truly something, as you're going to see here in the next 50 minutes or so, is truly something that can be used across the entire organization. It's not just a point solution for one thing inside a GP like some ISV products are. It is truly an enterprise-wide document management and content management solution. KwikTag, the company, KwikTag is the product, but KwikTag, the company, we've been around now for, since 1997. So I guess that's, 19 years now, just about. 9 U.S. patents on KwikTag. I've been here just about 5 years with KwikTag, and when I joined, we had 6. So we continue to add those patents. I just point that out to let you know, hey, good track record, been around a long time, but we continue to pour our resources, right, our blood, sweat, and tears, and our money into this product to make it better. This is all that we do. We're the makers of KwikTag, and that's our sole business. We're down here in Tempe, Arizona. Not a great place to be right now. If you've probably heard about us in the news lately, we're those people with the 118, 120 degrees. But a great place to come do some KwikTag training in January for sure. So. But we've been here doing this. Now, we started out as just a document management solution. So we started just, kind of document imaging. Scan the document in, get rid of the paper, help people with that type of, search, retrieve, find the document real quick. But quickly after we got up and running, in fact, back in 2004, so 12 years ago, we integrated KwikTag to GP, and an even more accurate word than integrate is to embed, because that's really how our technology works. It's really embedded inside of GP, which makes it so easy to use. We've expanded that to include the other Dynamics ERP solutions, so you may be familiar with or heard of AX, Navision, SL. So we're a full-fledged Microsoft partner. We're under the application development arena, so you have that assurance of knowing that you're working with an ISV with a strong Microsoft ties. And then about 5-6 years ago, we added the workflow solution to it, and that's really what we do the most of these days. What people come to us for, again, is to improve their business processes through automated workflow solutions. So we'll talk a lot about those today. North of 120,000 people using KwikTag around the globe, and a very high customer retention rate. If you know anything about software companies and how long people keep them, a 98% customer retention rate is really at the top of the market. So for me, that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. That proves that KwikTag, the software, is certainly delivering the value. The company, we, ImageTag, are delivering the service that we need to and keeping things fresh and very attentive to our customers. So we're proud of that. In terms of, kind of a little bit of our customer base, little snapshot of that. People ask me oftentimes, sometimes what kind of companies use it. Is there certain market segments or, industries? And really there's not, right? Again, use of paper and documents is so ubiquitous across all of our companies. It really comes down to, do you have too much paper that is causing you problems? And you guys just kind of know that inherently. That's likely why you're on this call to begin with. Certainly in terms of business process automation, it only takes one additional location that you're receiving documents at in your business to really start wreaking havoc on business process. Because the document comes in, it's got a route to different people, and if they're in different locations, it doesn't matter if it's across the street or across town, across the country, that process now becomes definitely a potential roadblock and bottlenecks, which we'll talk about next. So, so really across all different industries, all different companies can really realize value with KwikTag. Now, I'm going to go through the top 7 most common reasons that people decide to automate their business, to install a document management or a document content automation solution. And likely several, maybe even all of these are going to resonate with you guys on the call today. So first of all, are you spending too much time looking for documents, right? In terms of filing, searching, retrieving, is there just, you can just tell, right? We're always looking for documents in our organization, just too much time spent. Office space, look around, a lot of filing cabinets. Now, depending on where you're at, that might not be a big deal, right? If you're in an area with a large building where the rents aren't so high, then that might be okay. But even if you are, those filing cabinets can cost quite a bit of money, right? Especially start talking about those lateral 4-drawer high filing cabinets. Those are not cheap. In fact, I had someone tell me, they bought 4 of them recently, and I think they said the price tag was around, was north of $3,000. So that can be costly. If you are in a spot where rent is something you have to consider, then taking up all that floor space, heck, you might have a room or 2 filled with filing cabinets. That's office space that you could be utilizing. So there's real, short-term and long-term cost to be considered there. If we start talking about documents that need to be, routed throughout the organization for review and or approval, are you running into bottlenecks? I alluded to it a second ago with the other locations. And having to pass things around. Heck, it might be just within one office under one roof on the same floor that you're running into bottlenecks. You drop something on somebody's desk, they're out today, and then they're out tomorrow, and then they come back and they lose the document, and now they don't get it back to you. That's a bottleneck, okay? And that's just one simple example. How about visibility to your expenses, right? If we were going to talk, and a lot of my conversation here, my comments that I'll make will focus on AP automation, but this holds true really across the entire organization. But if we talk about visibility to documents and where they're at, if you're talking about a vendor invoice, right, and if you're getting that in, if you're not using a PO process especially, you have no visibility of this expense, right? And a lot of you are probably shaking your head right now in that, and somebody goes out and buys something, the vendor sends the invoice to that person, it sits on their desk. It doesn't make it to you in AP, and it gets buried or lost or forgotten about, and you don't find out about an AP until you get that 30, 60, 90-day call, right, from your vendor saying, where is this? We need this back. So visibility to expenses, especially as month end is coming, right, and you're trying to get your accruals aligned and everything, and you don't even know what's out there. So we can help you with that. If you're growing, hopefully you're growing, right? And that's the reason you can't keep up with things. If there's, or if it could be growth in just the number of invoices. Maybe you've acquired another division or company or something like that, or business is just on the rise, right? If you're at a point of growth where you're in the front windshield right now, you're looking out into the future and thinking, do we need to hire someone else in AP? If that's even on your mind right now, then you need to think about automation with a product like KwikTag, okay? Because that's really where we can help you with and really bring some great ROI. Compliance, we think of that, and the simplest thing is with audit. That's maybe the first thing that comes to mind, and we help all of our clients with that. Just one example, the simple process of relating checks, right? When that auditor hands you that list of checks and says, show me these invoices, KwikTag cleans that up so easily. But then also maybe in the industry that you're in, we'll talk about a use case later on here of a highly regulated industry and the ability to have all these documents in place to meet the compliance regulatory requirements within that industry. So KwikTag can definitely help you with that. Now, in terms of what this may be costing you, I want to talk about that, right? If you're dealing with any, one or seven of these different things we just talked about, there's going to be some real cost involved with some of this. I'm going to quote some numbers here and some industry studies. If you're like me, I'm originally from Missouri, the Show Me State. I guess maybe that's why I'm a little skeptical about some of this stuff. But I read these things when I see them in a seminar like this. I'm like, not in my company, right? We don't, not that much, right? So I'll give you that grain of salt. Go ahead and discount this a little bit. Even if you cut some of these numbers in half, they're still real, right? There's still some real costs here. So if we look at, on average, studies say that we spend 30 to 40% of our time looking for information that's on a document, whether it's an email and filing cabinets. We spend a lot of our time looking for things. And if it's paper, it is so much more inefficient, okay? Real cost associated to that. Real people who make real money have real cost when they're out there looking for documents. $120, to locate a lost document. If it turns out that it never turns up, and we got to go back to the original source and talk about replacing it. Now there's more time that's spent, and so more money is spent on that as well. In terms of how we receive documents, today, and this is pretty accurate because I ask this question a lot of my clients. Just less than half, 44% of invoices arrive as an electronic document, right? PDF. I don't think we get too many faxes anymore, but maybe an EDI feed. Maybe you're just getting it emailed to you otherwise, right? But you know what you guys do with it? Almost 2/3 of you, nearly 60% of you then print that document out, right? And there's several of you right now that are snickering and laughing at yourself because you do it. You print those documents out, you turn it into paper, you've exacerbated the problem. Thank you. That helps keep us in business, right? But yeah, this is just another way of some of the inefficiencies that creep into our business process. All in all, the Gartner Group says that 7 to 12% of companies' total revenues can be spent on documents. The document management, these processes we're talking about, the inefficiencies, hard costs, soft costs, 7 to 12%. So if we apply some numbers to that, right, to some of these boxes, our accounting, if we're just looking at an accounting specialist, right, somebody that works in accounting spending 30 to 40% of their time looking for documents, that one person is north of 15 grand that we may be losing money on that person as they search for documents with an inefficient process or lack of processes in place. If we lose documents, right, on average 500 documents, if you're receiving 500 documents a month, on average you're going to lose maybe 25, 35. There's real costs to that as well, right? And if when we start printing documents, right, again, that's just there's money involved with that as well. So again, the Gartner Group tells us that if we apply if we apply some of the 7 to 12%, it's real money, right? Depending on how big your company is and the revenues and the amount of people and the processes, it adds up. It may not be 10 to 50 million in your company. Heck, if it's 1 million, if it's $500,000, right? And if we can recapture 20% of that, 30% of that, right? If we just really, minimize these numbers and make them really believable, the point is that there's real money out there that you are spending now that you may not realize, that you're losing right now that you may not realize, there's a certain inefficiency to that, right? And it likely, I got the bad news for you guys, it likely truly is happening, and to some extent, in your organization. You may not be that acutely aware of it, and you probably don't, I guarantee you don't have time to dig into it and do these kind of research and studies to really find out what's going on. I know you don't have that time, but if you did, you would find that, wow, this is more inefficient than I thought it was, and we are really costing ourselves some money that we can recapture. So in terms of QuikTag, we talked about 3 easy steps, right? Helping you guys with 3 easy steps. That was in the tagline of this webinar. So those 3 easy steps are capture, integrate, and automate. Okay, and so with QuikTag, that's truly what we help you do. Not necessarily in that order all the time, but those are the 3 tools that we bring to bear. And again, as I said at the very top of this, the beauty of QuikTag is that this can work in any department with any document or documents and with any process that you have. QuikTag is very flexible and configurable to help you, increase your processes everywhere. Now, we do, as I said, kind of focus, some of the things we do most often have to do with payables automation. So again, vendor invoices, routing for review and approval, and things like that. Expense management, so whether that's a corporate credit card that's been issued to employees, or if it's reimbursements, we can help you with expense management. Forms automation, we'll talk about a little bit later, in terms of just getting all of your company documents into one forms library and creating those for them. And then tailored applications. That's one of the funner things that we do around here, is create custom tailored workflow solutions for kind of unique business needs, and we'll talk about one of those later on. So again, capture, integrate, automate. That's what I want you to think about QuikTag. Capture, getting the document into the system, right? Going paperless with that document, or if that document originates today in your organization as a digital document, keeping it digital. A term we love around here, KID, keep it digital. So getting a hold of those documents, right? Making sure that you're working with a solution that is integrated to your ERP solution. So I think most people on this call are GP users. If you're thinking about doing this, you really want to go with a solution that is hand in glove, already done, tried and true, and integrated with GP. Not a solution that from a company that tells you, sure, we can integrate to GP. No, you don't want to run from that, please. Okay, we've been doing this for 20 years. We are 12 years into our integration into GP. We got our teeth kicked in the early days, like you usually do with a new solution. We are truly embedded, actually, and integrated into GP, and you want to see that in any solution that you go for. You want to see tried and true track record of that kind of technology. And then the ability to automate. Again, create a workflow solution and automate your currently manual processes, right, whatever they may be, and we'll talk about that more. So in terms of capturing documents inside of GP, just standard out of the box vanilla install of QuikTag, we are going to be embedded, integrated to 79 different GP forms across those 9 different modules that you see listed there on the left. I realize you may not be using all of those. Lots of folks don't use HR or payroll as an example, but where you are, we'll be there. We come alive, again, as you see, embedded off the additional menu in QuikTag. So once QuikTag is installed, and this is our platform. We get our platform in there, we stand it up, we to GP, and this part of the process is, I mean, we can do this literally in 2.5, 3 days, this part right here, and we're done. And we then come alive off that additional menu with those like tag a document, view documents, search documents. And so very, very easy to do. If you need us to be attached to other GP forms beyond our list of 79, we can typically do that as well. Now, what happens is you can, as you just saw, interact and use and upload documents through GP. They really get stored over here in QuikTag. You can see them from GP. In fact, a lot of my GP-only users never even, don't spend much time here in QuikTag. They just use it from GP because you can search and retrieve and find documents in GP. But where they really live is over here in QuikTag. They live in a drawer, right? So those 79 forms that we embed to, that are connected to, they become 79 drawers over in QuikTag. And on my slide here on the far left-hand side, those little blue file folder icons, drawers. right? If you see down in the bottom left-hand side, I'm connected to the payable transaction entry drawer. You open up the drawer, you get all the files down the middle of the screen. I click on a file, I see the image on the right. So we have this idea of this inline view with KwikTag of all your documents in all your different drawers. And of course, security can be set to when a user logs into KwikTag, they can only see certain drawers. When they get into a drawer, they can only see certain documents. Okay, so that's of course something you can set. Now that happens automatically with the GP integration. Boom, we create those drawers for you. It's part of our connector. Like I said, it happens instantly. Now, what you'll also have the ability to do, though, is, and this will be part of training, you'll be able to build your own drawers that have, again, nothing to do with GP. We call them non-ERP drawers. And this is where you begin to expand the use of KwikTag. No cost for this. We don't charge you by drawer or anything like that. You'll be trained on how to build a drawer, as I said. Once you know how to do it, and it can take as little as 5 minutes to build out a drawer. Really very simple. And you can then expand the use of KwikTag. My example here, of course, is a resume. So if you have a HR use, just as a simple example, you can think about all the different documents we all have in our employee files, right? In your company, there's probably a set of documents. I'm sure there is. I know there is, right? And there might be 15 to 20 or plus documents that everybody has kind of, at one time or another, likely to be in their employee file. Well, you build drawers based on those documents, and you store those here, okay, into KwikTag. So, and that's for the cost of an end user license. Maybe you have 3, 4, 5 people in HR, you get them a $300 one-time charge license, and now they can go paperless in HR. Okay, so you can do that anywhere in your whole organization. Okay, so that's capturing a document. Now let's talk about automating processes, creating electronic workflows, and how we deal with that. Okay, so we bring forth workflow solutions through what we call KwikApps. Okay, you'll hear that phrase, and I'm going to introduce you in the next slide to a few different kinds of KwikApps. But what is a KwikApp? A KwikApp is a collection of tools or solutions that KwikTag can bring to bear. Of course, definitely the ERP integration, so connecting KwikTag to GP, as we've already talked about, is a big part of that. Intelligent routing, right? So the ability to have documents route to the right person based on whatever criteria that is that you need. That may be based, if we're talking about an invoice again, that may be based on a vendor name or the location somehow, or GLs, or you can even pick where you want it to go. So we can certainly route it to where it needs to go. We keep our eyes on that. We monitor what's going on. How long does that sit in someone's work queue, and have they done the approval or not? If they haven't, we send them another alert, right, to let them know that, hey, it's been stuck in your work queue for 2 or 3 days. It's exceeded the threshold of you not taking any action, so we can definitely monitor that as well. And then we can bring all those documents together in what we call document associations. A simple example in the payables process is a purchase order is related to a receiving document is related to an invoice, right? That 2 or maybe 3-way match that you might be dealing with. So that's a simple association that we can take care of for you with KwikTag. And then if you want to build out custom document associations, we switch gears and put it on steroids and call that case management. Okay, so again, think back to my employee file example. Think about all those documents for your employees being in KwikTag, right? 22 documents for Sean Fitzgerald, the employee, sitting in KwikTag in 22 different drawers, but they're all indexed. So one of the fields of information I put in there with each document, they're all indexed with my employee ID, perhaps, right? Well, I can create a case file based on employee ID, go into that section of KwikTag, filter on the employee, case employee ID, or maybe first name, last name, and there's Sean's file. I click on that, and there's all 22 of my employee documents, right? So that's case management. We pull all these associated documents together. You can use that for projects, and all kinds of different examples. You come up with it, how it would work inside your organization, but case management is a strong tool. So we capture the document, we route it for review and approval, and then we can pull it all into a case file at the right time. Okay, so that's what KwikApps are made of. The most common ones we have that people ask us for, what I refer to as the commercial KwikApps. One would be called Quick Payables, which is for invoice routing and approval. And that's certainly the most popular one we have today. Growing in popularity is our Quick Expense app, and we'll look a little bit at some information about that. That's, again, for that credit card reimbursement, whether it be a reimbursement or a corporate card, so we can handle that. And then Quick Forms, I alluded to a little earlier already, the Forms library. So think about all the documents that you use frequently in an organization, and you store them all in KwikTag, one place, right? One repository for those documents, so that when changes are made, they're made in one place by the source provider of that document. So if it's a time off, request, a vacation request form, right? Everybody's favorite form. HR puts that up there. If there's any changes to that, they go in there, they make the change in one spot, and anytime I want to use that form, I go into Quick Forms, I use that, I fill it out with a few quick pieces of information, I click submit. It's user aware, it knows I'm Sean, it knows my boss is, John, so it automatically, routes that document to John, he approves it, and it, it continues on and goes into my file or wherever it needs to go. So Quick Forms is great. We've done some great tailored KwikApps, as I alluded to earlier, in the sales operations side of the house, contract management, multiple onboarding solutions. In fact, I'm going to talk about one really cool one that we did, whether it be customers, contractors, employees, and so on. So again, I want you to think of KwikTag as so flexible from a workflow perspective that, wow, we can really create any kind of a workflow that we may need with KwikTag. And we'll work with you, obviously, with a business analyst. The workflow happens inside of KwikTag. It's proprietary to KwikTag. It has nothing to do with GP or any other thing going on in GP. Workflow happens in KwikTag. We get the document in, and we route it for, its review and approval. Now, my little diagram here is talking about an invoice. It routes for review and approval. One person indexes it. Another person enters some information too, maybe about it. It gets approved by the regional manager, and then it gets pushed into GP, and the AP clerk can take, 59 invoices at once and assign them to a payables batch and move them all in it with one move, one click, right? So, but how we get there is through a workflow scoping call. So typically after our initial demo, folks will say, yeah, that looks great. That's what we're looking for. How much does it cost, right? Well, from there, we go into what we call a workflow scoping call. And so that's when we pull in an image tag business analyst. They'll figure out your exact requirements and write all those up into a statement of work. We build Visio diagrams for you so you can see it. And so you know exactly what it is that we're building for you. And then we build a custom design automated workflow for you. Now, in terms of kind of what that looks like, folks will will get their document waiting for approval. It'll drop into their KwikTag client, and so they'll have the ability to, however often, once a day, twice a day, however often they need to, go into their work queue, see the invoices there, have all the information ready for them, and simply approve or reject the document. Now, if this sits here too long, well, let me go to the next one. So they can also do that via email. Okay, so they're going to get this, most people this feature on, and determine that they want email approval as well. So I can get an email approval, as you can see, with the document attached, so the invoice is attached. The information I need there is in that table in the middle to make a good decision. And then if I want to, I can approve or reject right from that email. You'll see at the bottom of there I have a hot link, approve, reject. I hit approve, I hit delete, I go back to work. I do not have to log in to KwikTag for that. So we'll give them email approvals. Now, you'll set thresholds to that. This is about that monitoring behavior and giving you alerts and helping people to take action. We'll set a threshold to that. Maybe typically it's 3 business days. You can set it for whatever you want. If this sits in my queue and I don't do anything with it for 3 business days, then I'm going to get another email, right, reminding me, hey, this is, we've gone too long here. This is past the deadline. You need to approve this. And they'll get that email every day until they take action. We call it the nag email. We'll nag them until, and you guys know how this goes, right? You're going to have people, they're early adopters to the solution, your technology people that love this kind of stuff, they'll jump right on board. But you know how it goes. You have your slow to respond people, the laggards who, are not jumping on everything right away. And so they're going to need that nudge, but this does help with that change management aspect of this that's, needed for any process improvement that you put in place in your organization, any new tool, any new software. So those little nag emails help to kind of spur that along and get people all on board even quicker. So in terms of a typical AP process, yours might look something like this. The invoice comes in, right? And if everybody says, I ask them, where do your invoices come today? And I always get the, well, some of them come into me, right, here in AP. We're trying to get to that, but a lot of them go to the people, the purchasers or the different locations, right? So depending on where it comes in today, it's probably coming in at the edges of the organization, as we like to say, so the different touch points. Hopefully it gets to you in AP and doesn't get buried on their desk. Sometimes folks will then, route it out for review and approval manually, or maybe you'll enter it into the ERP first. We've seen both, but either way, then what do? You make a copy, right? So now the invoice came in, maybe somebody who got it made a copy of it, sent it to AP. Now AP gets it, they make a copy again, and they send it back out to the approver. Hopefully it gets delivered to the approver. A lot of times I know AP, it's about 50-50. A lot of times AP does the GL coding, but a lot of times it's the manager, they're responsible for their budget, their department, they want to do the coding. So it'll go out to them, they do the approval or the rejection, and hopefully it makes its way back to AP in a fairly timely manner. Hopefully it wasn't lost. Hopefully nobody was out on vacation or traveling on business, right, out sick, and it got back to you in a timely manner. You guys cut the check, file the invoice with a copy of the check or maybe the remittance, something like that, right? Of course, well, you got to sign it first. Sign and mail the check, and everything goes back into the filing cabinet, right? One big file. And so that takes a lot of time. On average, Gartner tells us 35-day cycle time, which I think is kind of odd since the most common terms are net 30, right? Some net 60, of course, but so that tells me that on average, a lot of people are paying theirs late. I know nobody on the webinar here today pays their invoices late, and nobody that I've ever spoke to pays their invoices late. But some people out there apparently are, right? That doesn't happen to you, but it does happen. So what can we help you do? How can we streamline this process and cut things down? Well, we can receive the invoices immediately. It's going to come right into KwikTag. It's going to go directly in. In fact, your vendors can email invoices right into KwikTag for you even. But wherever it comes in your organization, they can just send it right into KwikTag, right? It's going to get coded in KwikTag. It's either by AP or by the approver. It's going to route, electronically straight to the approvers. And that can be set to do that automatically. Click of a button, they're going to approve and reject, and then we're going to push that into GP, right? And the approved invoice is going to go right into GP and create that for you. And from that point, we kind of stop for the most part. You're going to go ahead and your payables process in terms of cutting the check and things like that. Now, we don't automate that because that's not the business that we're in. But we will get that, now the end result is that the documents, this invoice and anything related to it is now stored securely in KwikTag. And as I said, even on the back end of that, as you go to look for, we can take the check and even relate it to that invoice, right? The check information related to that invoice. So you have that later too. So what we see on average is more about a 4 to 6, 7 maybe days in terms of cycle time. On average, about 5 days of a cycle time with AP. So we can really cut things down. It's just it's a fantastic solution. Now, that's AP invoices, payable management, and one way we can help you out. That's KwikPayables. That's the software solution called KwikPayables. One of the other ones I told you guys about was KwikExpense, and that's for expense management, obviously. And so let's take a look at what that looks like. So we're really talking about a similar solution in the sense that there's a document. In this case, it's a receipt, right? And I'm going to just gather all my receipts, create a report, and send the report for review and approval, right? That's what's going to happen here. So this is a rent-a-car receipt, obviously, that I got. That's I'm not a hand model, but maybe I should be, huh? That's actually mine. Point is, you can take a picture of it with your phone, right, and just email it right in, as you would expect. If it's otherwise a document that you received, a PDF, of course, you can just scan it right in here. But I pile up all my receipts in my work queue, and then when it's ready to run and really anytime I can go in there and begin to what we call index, right? Enter the information. So the expense type, reimbursement type, whether it was you know, credit payable to the vendor, payable to American Express, or is it reimbursable to me, that type of thing. So there's multiple pieces of information. Don't look at my screen right now and go, wait a minute, they only have 6 lines of information. You can put in anything you want. This is all completely customizable to what you want to gather for a specific receipt, okay? So you'll put in the information for all your different receipts, and then you'll just run your report, and it goes in, of course, and you can, by any criteria you can set as you run that expense report. People usually do it by date, right? Everything from the 28th to the 27th type of thing, and so it runs that report. I'll get a chance to look at that report, right? And in fact, here, let me move this forward. So I'll get a chance to look at that report. We simple Excel report, you know, but we compile it and give the end user a chance to kind of look at it, and then they'll submit it. Now I'll just hit submit at the end of that, and it'll automatically will route to who it needs to go to. So it goes to my boss, right, for his approval. Now what I've done here, what you can see on this slide, if you look here, the little green check boxes and the red X, okay. If we look from the top down, if you look, that'd be kind of small print, but you should be able to see it here. It says expense reports in process. I have the first one. It's the user is J. Michaels, right? And then the one right below that says Sean. And you can see I've expanded it. I've opened it up. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4 receipts in this report, okay? So my boss can come in here, and this is where my boss does their approval. And so they can, you know, do the red X and say, no, I don't approve this, or they can do the green checkbox, or they can open up each one of these line items, look at the receipts, and then approve or reject by individual receipt, which if you reject it, it pulls it out of my report, and the rest of the report continues on. So they'll get this, and then we'll push that right into GP and make that a payable either to American, you know, to the credit card vendor, American Express, Visa, whoever it is, or we'll make it payable as a reimbursable to your employee, however you guys have it set up, okay? So we can handle both of those. Now, really cool solution, and this is one that that you guys in the back office love, right? People in AP love this one. So imagine it's time to, you know, you're nearing the time when you're going to have to pay in our cases, we use American Express corporate cards. So it's getting near the time when, you know, you're going to have to make the payment, and you're wondering, hey, are all the expense reports in? Do I have all the receipts for this? Well, my example here on the screen, we went up to the American Express site, we downloaded our corporate statement from American Express for the entire company, and we just simply uploaded it right here into KwikTag. KwikTag looks into KwikTag for all those receipts, what's in there, and it takes this previously completely white sheet that you see on your screen, and it turns it green and red. The green line items are receipts that are already in KwikTag. The red ones aren't. So that lets you know, geez, right here I'm way behind. I don't have hardly any of these receipts. But here's the really cool thing. What it does next is that it sends an email to every one of those users. You can see me down here on lines 12 and 13, Sean Fitzgerald, I'm missing 2 receipts. I just got an email with notification that I'm missing these 2 receipts. It gives me the detail, tells me who the vendor is, the date, the amount, and it tells me I'm missing them. Okay? So now we all go in, we upload the missing receipts. My AP lady runs this again maybe tomorrow, right? And boom, the whole thing's white, and they're all taken care of. It keeps her from having to print off the, you know, paper copies of this thing, walk them around the office, putting them on my desk when I'm not here, and saying, Sean, get these in, and then coming back 3 days later and telling me I'm late and blah, blah, blah. all that goes away, right? Streamline, instant accountability, instant change of behavior, getting people to, get their documents in, their receipts in on time, and really helps you to manage that whole expense management process, okay? Forms automation, we talked a little bit about that too. This is one where I keep talking about the forms library, okay? And so with forms automation, what you're able to do, again, I've already mentioned this a couple times, but get all those documents into KwikTag that you use, that are forms that need to route throughout the organization for review and approval, and have a one-stop shopping for all those. I know where to go get them as an employee. The source providers of those documents only have to update it in one place. They know everybody's working from the most current, company form, whatever that may be, and then you can attach specific user-specific workflows to each one of those forms, so things route exactly where they need to go. Okay. Now we're also embedded inside of Office, by the way, in 3 spots. We're in Word, Excel, and Outlook. So KwikTag is embedded already in those. So if I open up that, I can go into a Word document that I have, open up the Word document, right, and then from inside of Word, I can send it on its workflow path too. That's also part of our QuickForms, QuickDocs integration that we have. Okay. So forms automation, yeah, well, I already kind of talked about that. Let me skip over that. Case management. This is what I wanted to talk to you guys about here real quick. So case management, as we talked about, brings all these different documents together, right? I alluded to this previously in the example with the HR file, right? You can have HR documents in 20 different drawers, but as you see here, I have a current employee case file open on the left-hand side. There's, Sean Fitzgerald, Brian, Randy, Luke. I'm on Adam Katz's case file, and here's all the documents that are stored in KwikTag, but they're in one view. As I click on each line item, I get to see the document on the right-hand side, right? If there was a workflow, I would right-click and show the workflow history for any one of these documents. So again, multiple documents related to Adam Katz's file, all stored in KwikTag in different drawers, but made visible in one spot here in his case file, utilizing KwikTag case management. Okay. So in terms of a great example of a use case that brought all of this together, that in terms of capture and integrating to GP and using case management and workflow to automate things, I want to tell you about a company called Diligent Delivery. And they came to us, and one of the reasons I love this is that they came to us needing an AP automation solution, for sure, kind of a standard traditional vendor invoice, route for review and approval. And we went down that list of requirements and said, yep, no problem, one hand behind our back kind of thing. That's what we do all the time. That's easy schmeezy. All right. And they said, but you know what? We got this other issue, this other business process that really is causing us pain and needs improvement. And we said, hey, what's that? And we jumped on top of that. And that's the one I want to talk to you about, okay? Because that, to me, when I start talking about this one system message, this really says it. Because, yeah, we did the low-hanging fruit, the easy thing that everybody asked us for, but we also did this very customized solution for them. So Diligent Delivery provides truck drivers, right? They're a logistics company. They were formerly NDLI Logistics when they came to us. Now they're Diligent Delivery. But one of the key things that they provide is truck drivers to keep their logistics business running, right? And they have to carry on staff at any one time 3,000 truckers to keep their their business working at the levels that it needs to. Now they bring them on as independent contractors. They have 46 at the time. They had 46 different locations across the country, and they also realize on average about a 50% annual turnover in this role, independent contractors. So they're hiring about 1,500, 60 to 70, 75 at peak independent contractors every month. Okay, so imagine if you were hiring 65 new employees for this one same position across the country, right? Now, the trucking industry is regulated, thank goodness, right? It's regulated in terms of the documents and the assurances that I have to have in place to get on the road, right? obviously a license, of course, insurance, some of those things, but there's drug tests and background checks and you know, all these other things that I have to have done and accounted for to, you know, be compliant to go to work. Now, depending on what state I'm in, that changes a little bit from state to state. And so Diligent, on average, across the 46 locations, the lowest was about 20 documents that a guy had to have in his file before he could go to work, and the highest was around 40. So 20 to 40 documents, 65, 75 guys coming on board every month, right? And all of this starting at the different 46 locations to gather this information, right? But then ultimately needing to get to the corporate location for visibility, routing, approval, and you know, before they can put this person to work. And that's keeping their business humming, right? So this was a critical process. So they were spending a bunch of time, the general managers were spending a good 30% of their time out there looking for all these documents. Corporate didn't have visibility to anything that was going on, right? Because it was all manual, it was all paper-based. They were literally faxing documents in. They had everything stored throughout 26 different 4-drawer filing cabinets, right, at the corporate office once they were able to get everything in place. So what we did is that we brought all this together. We utilized capturing all these documentation from the get-go. We even gave them a portal so the truckers could start to put some of their stuff in through a portal, right? So at the source origination of these documents, we could get our hands on them. We routed all them, we were capturing them, and so for easy retrieval, and then we had workflow approval on a lot of these. Not all the documents needed to be routed for review and approval, but many did, okay? And then we pulled them all together into a case file. Of course, we created a case for each one of these independent contractors where their 20 to 40 documents, right, were stored. And then once those, 29 documents for this guy were in there, we sent notification, and that pending independent contractor became an active contractor, and they could go to work. And we allowed them reporting so they could track all that and really begin to manage that process, okay? So with this solution in place, their GM's productivity increased by 30% because they were spending way less time chasing all this paper down. The independent contractors had everything, again, stored centrally, related to the ERP system where it needed to, and in KwikTag as well. Corporate was happy about it because, again, they had visibility to everything. They knew where the things were in the process. You can imagine as you went through the month, trying to have all the guys, ready to roll and in different stages of the process, they now had visibility to that. On this solution alone, they got a payback within 6 months, return on investment within 6 months, okay? Unbelievable. They got rid of those 26 filing cabinets, by the way. They put 3 people full-time. It took them about 3 months to do a backfile project, right, at one time. And I asked them specifically, the CFO, John, told me they were doing, on average, about 9,000 documents a day, scanning from the filing cabinets into KwikTag. And I'm like, wow, KwikTag was able to keep up with that volume? He said, sure, KwikTag was. He said, my scanners weren't. He said, I burned through a couple scanners, but yeah, so they were able to get rid of all those filing cabinets, and you can imagine the space, the 26 4-drawer filing cabinets freed up for them too. So really, really exciting solution for us. Of course, as I said, we did AP automation for them as well. I'm going to skip through this. We're running out of time a little bit, but Denver Broncos, they came to us just with kind of a standard AP need, and you can talk to them if you'd like as a reference, but we worked with them as well to do kind of some of the standard stuff. They were, they had bottlenecks. It was taking them weeks sometimes to process a lot of their invoices, and they were able to, trim that down just into days. So they love it. They're getting timely reporting now. They're getting their invoices back very, very quickly. So they got an ROI that, in less than 9 months as well, and just on the AP side. And so great solution there. In terms of what's coming in KwikTag, just briefly before I throw it open to questions, we have 2 things that we're really excited about. One we're calling the GP Professional Client, and so I gave you a couple screenshots of what the KwikTag work queue looks like today, and how you enter documents in and route them for review and approval. We're offering an additional user experience called the GP Professional Client. I'll show you that in a second. And then we're coming out with a custom workflow designer, which is going to be a true game changer for us and for our clients once it gets here. It's called Katana, and I'll show you that next. So the GP Pro Client, here's what this is going to look like. Should be very familiar to my GP friends, right? So instead of that work queue I was showing you previously, the work queue is going to look like this, okay? So obviously it's a replication of, in this example, the payable transaction entry screen in GP. So you'll go into a work queue, you might have 22 invoices in there waiting for you to enter some information about, and you'll have this data entry experience that you're obviously very familiar with. So training time on this is going to be just about 0 because you already know how to use it. So you'll enter all the information in here. Now, one thing I haven't even talked about in all of this is our zonal OCR solution. Okay, we do, of course, have the solution that reads this invoice for you and does the data entry for you as well. Okay, so you would come in here and all these fields of information would already be filled out for you. You do a quick validation, hit send, and it would go on its way. So not all of our clients need or request that. It's an additional cost. And so sometimes if the ROI makes sense, it's a fantastic solution, but we don't force our clients into doing that because we run the gamut. We have small and medium businesses. We have clients that have 200, 300 invoices a month, and they don't really need it. We have clients that have 4,000 to 5,000 invoices, 8,000 invoices a month. They have to have that zonal OCR solution. So it goes both ways, but we're really excited about this Pro Client user experience that's going to be coming out here pretty soon because our GP folks, we've gotten rave reviews from our GP clients already. They can't wait to get their hands on it. In terms of Workflow Designer, this is something that is truly kind of forward in terms of it's out there a little bit for us. I would expect to have this towards the end of this year. But what this is going to allow you to do, if you so choose, is to build your own workflows and kind of a Visio-based type. It's an icon-driven workflow designer. So you'll have to get some training on this and learn how to use it. But once you know how to use it, you'll really just do a drag and drop. Now, this Katana is what this is, our workflow designer, and Katana will come loaded with workflow templates. Okay, it's going to come loaded with a library of workflows already for invoices and HR and all different kinds of things. And so you can start with one of the templates and then make an adjustment to it, or of course you can design your own workflow template from scratch. But it's all icon driven, just drag and drop and put the right commands in and things like that. The cool thing about building all this is that of course then you're going to be able to convert this to code inside of KwikTag, right? You're just going to upload this into KwikTag, and KwikTag will build that workflow for you, okay? And so if you have the resources internally and you want to be able to do this, you can, have your own workflows, and then, Katie bar the door in terms of going to town with just, automating as many processes as you want, because you'll have the power right there to do that. Okay, so that's called Katana, Automated Workflow Designer. That'll be coming out later towards the end of the year. Pretty excited about that. Okay, so Dale, I'm going to kind of put you on the line now and see if we have any questions pending or anything come in from the group.
We did have a couple questions come in. If anybody else, if you do have a question that you wanted to ask, please go ahead and do that through the chat real quick. I'm going to throw two questions at you as we're running up on top of the hour, Sean.
Sure.
One, how long does it take to implement QuickTag, and do I need to buy new scanners or other equipment?
Okay. How long does it take to implement QuickTag? Well, everybody's favorite answer, it depends, right? It really depends on what you're getting, of course. Now, if you're going to do a capture-only solution with no workflow, as I said earlier, if you remember, that's a 2 to 3 day thing, right? In the first, that'll take us 1 business week or less to do that. quick and easy. Now, most people end up going with a workflow solution. Again, I keep referring to the invoice, the quick payables invoice solution. You should plan for 60 days for that. We've gotten it done in 19 days with a very active, very motivated client, right? And that's what it comes down to. How fast can you move? We can move as fast as you can, but on average, a workflow solution like that, one workflow solution will take about 60 days to get up and running. Again, we can do it quicker. It's not unheard of, do it in 30, 40 days, but that's that in terms of, it was about scanners, Dale, was the other one. Did they need to buy additional scanners? Was that the other question?
Correct.
Yeah, no, not at all. Nope. We're really kind of scanner agnostic. Anything that you have will work. And I can say that now because the requirements are so basic that any scanner bought in the last 10 years meets them. You know, if you want to scan directly to, you know, KwikTag is a server-based solution today. Stay tuned for further announcements on additional offerings of KwikTag. But today it's a server-based solution that you'll own. And so if it'll reside on, you know, on your network, or if you host GP somewhere and you want to put KwikTag with that hosting provider, you can. But again, you'll own it. So you want that scanner to be able to point to KwikTag. So it should be a network scanner, which most all of them are. Doesn't have to be, but that'll work most efficiently. But any scanner that you have will likely be just fine.
Great, thanks, Sean. I don't see any other questions coming in at the moment. So I think that wraps it up for us for today. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Alta Vista directly. I believe possibly even Scott.
You can reach out to Alta Vista directly.
And we'll pull Sean in, and we will be sure to assist you in any way that we can. So thanks for joining, everybody.